In the summer of 1984, the Midwest was gripped by fear as Alton, Coleman, and Debra Brown embarked on a brutal crime spree that spanned 6 states, leaving a trail of terror and tragedy. Their journey of violence began in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where they abducted 9-year-old Vernita Wheat. After Coleman befriended her mother, Vernita's decomposed body was later discovered in an abandoned building near Coleman's grandmother's residence in Waukegan, Illinois. This marked the beginning of a series of heinous crimes that would shock the nation. As they moved through Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio, Coleman and Brown continued their rampage, targeting vulnerable individuals, including children and the elderly. Their methods were marked by extreme violence, sexual assault, and a chilling lack of remorse. The couple's ability to blend into predominantly African-American communities allowed them to evade capture for weeks, despite a massive manhunt. This case serves as a stark reminder of the depths of human depravity and the importance of vigilance in protecting vulnerable populations. The story of Alton Coleman and Debra Brown is not just one of crime, but also of the resilience of the communities that endured their wrath. In June 1984, Alton Coleman and Debra Brown continued their multi-state crime spree, leaving a trail of victims across the Midwest. Their actions during this period escalated in brutality and frequency, drawing increased attention from law enforcement and the public. On June 19, the body of 7-year-old Tamika Turks was discovered in Gary, Indiana. She had been missing since June 17, when she and her 9-year-old aunt Annie were abducted while walking near their home. Annie survived the attack and later provided critical information to authorities. That same day, 25-year-old Donna Williams disappeared from Gary. Her body was found weeks later in Detroit, Michigan, approximately half a mile from where her car was. She had been strangled. On June 28, Coleman and Brown entered the home of Palmer and Marjorie Jones in Dearborn Heights, Michigan. The couple was assaulted and their car was stolen. These incidents marked a pattern in Coleman and Brown's crimes, targeting individuals who offered them assistance or companionship. Their ability to gain the trust of their victims allowed them to continue their spree across state lines. As their crimes became more frequent and violent, law enforcement agencies across multiple states began to coordinate efforts to apprehend the duo. The FBI added Alton Coleman to its 10 most wanted list on July 12, 1984, highlighting the severity of their offenses and the urgency of their capture. The public was urged to remain vigilant, and communities were on high alert as Coleman and Brown continued their deadly journey through the Midwest. In early July 1984, Alton Coleman and Debra Brown's crime spree intensified as they traversed Ohio, leaving a trail of violence that deeply affected several communities. On July 5, in Toledo, Ohio, the couple targeted the home of Virginia Temple, a mother of several children. After gaining entry, they tragically ended the lives of Virginia and her 9-year-old daughter, Rochelle, leaving the younger children unharmed, but alone and frightened. Later that same day, Coleman and Brown invaded the residence of Frank and Dorothy Duvendak, also in Toledo. The couple was bound, and their belongings, including their car, were stolen. Fortunately, both survived the ordeal. By July 12, the duo had made their way to Cincinnati, Ohio. That day, 15-year-old Tawny Story disappeared. Her body was discovered 8 days later, and a bracelet belonging to Virginia Temple was found beneath her, linking the crimes. The following day, July 13th, Coleman and Brown arrived in Norwood, Ohio, where they encountered Harry and Marlene Walters. Posing as potential buyers for a camper, they gained access to the Walters' home. Once inside, they attacked the couple, resulting in Marlene's death and leaving Harry severely injured. The assailants stole the Walters' car and fled the scene. These events marked a particularly violent phase in Coleman and Brown's spree, characterized by home invasions and attacks on families. Their actions prompted a multi-state manhunt, with law enforcement agencies collaborating to apprehend the fugitives. The couple's ability to gain the trust of their victims, often through deception, and their transient lifestyle made them particularly elusive. Their crimes during this period not only showcased their brutality, but also highlighted challenges in tracking and apprehending mobile offenders across jurisdictions. This phase of their crime spree set the stage for the subsequent atrocities they would commit as they continued their deadly journey through the Midwest. In mid-July 1984, Alton Coleman and Debra Brown's crime spree extended into Kentucky and Indiana, marking some of the most alarming episodes of their 53-day rampage. On July 16, the couple abandoned a stolen vehicle in Kentucky and abducted lling Jr., a college professor from Williamsburg. They confined him in the trunk of his own car and drove back to Dayton, Ohio. The following day, authorities discovered the vehicle and rescued Carmichael, who had been held captive for several hours. That same day, Coleman and Brown returned to the Dayton home of Reverend Millard Gay and his wife Catherine, who had previously offered them shelter. Recognizing Coleman from news reports, Reverend Gay confronted him. Coleman responded, "I'm not going to kill you, but we generally kill them where we go." They then took the couple's car and departed. While en route to Illinois, the duo passed through Indianapolis, Indiana. There they encountered 75-year-old Eugene Scott. After stealing his car, they tragically ended his life. Scott's vehicle was later found near the location of Coleman and Brown's eventual arrest. These events underscored the unpredictable and dangerous nature of Coleman and Brown's actions as they continued to traverse state lines, leaving communities in fear and prompting a multi-state manhunt. On July 20, 1984, after a 53-day crime spree across 6 states, Alton Coleman and Debra Brown were apprehended in Evanston, Illinois. A former acquaintance recognized Coleman and alerted authorities. Police officers located the pair sitting on bleachers in Mason Park. Upon arrest, a search revealed a steak knife concealed in Coleman's socks and a firearm in Brown's purse. They were taken into custody without incident and identified through fingerprint analysis. Following their arrest, law enforcement agencies from multiple states convened to determine the jurisdiction for prosecution. Ohio was selected due to the severity of the crimes committed there and its capital punishment statutes. In Ohio, Coleman and Brown were convicted of the murders of Marlene Walters and Tawny Story. Both received death sentences. Coleman was also sentenced to death in Indiana and Illinois, making him one of the few individuals to receive death sentences in 3 states. Debra Brown's death sentences in Ohio and Indiana were later commuted to life imprisonment without parole due to considerations regarding her mental health and intellectual capacity. She remains incarcerated. In Alton Coleman's appeals were unsuccessful, and he was executed by lethal injection in Ohio on April 26, 2002. His execution marked the end of a case that had drawn national attention due to its brutality and the multi-state nature of the crimes. The case of Alton Coleman and Debra Brown underscores the complexities of interstate criminal activity and the challenges faced by law enforcement in coordinating across jurisdictions. The 1984 crime spree of Alton Coleman and Debra Brown left an indelible mark on the American Midwest, profoundly affecting the communities they terrorized and prompting significant changes in law enforcement practices. Community impact. The sudden and brutal nature of Coleman and Brown's offenses instilled fear across multiple states. Communities were left grappling with the trauma of the crimes, leading to increased public demand for better protective measures and support systems for victims and their families. Law enforcement coordination. The multi-state pursuit of Coleman and Brown highlighted the challenges law enforcement agencies faced in tracking criminals across jurisdictions. Their ability to evade capture for 53 days underscored the need for improved communication and collaboration among state and federal agencies. In response, law enforcement began developing more integrated databases and cooperative strategies to handle interstate crimes more effectively. Media coverage and public awareness. The extensive media coverage of the crime spree brought national attention to the case, emphasizing the importance of public awareness in aiding criminal investigations. The dissemination of information through news outlets played a crucial role in alerting communities and encouraging vigilance, which ultimately contributed to the apprehension of the fugitives. Legal and correctional reforms. The case prompted discussions on the adequacy of the criminal justice system in dealing with repeat offenders and the processes involved in parole and rehabilitation. The severity of Coleman and Brown's crimes led to a re-evaluation of sentencing laws and the implementation of stricter measures to prevent similar occurrences. Legacy. Decades later, the case of Alton Coleman and Debra Brown remains a sobering example of the potential for violence and the necessity for vigilant, coordinated efforts in law enforcement. It serves as a reminder of the importance of community involvement, media responsibility, and systemic reforms in preventing and responding to such tragedy. The lessons learned from this case continue to influence policies and practices aimed at enhancing public safety and ensuring justice for victims.